Okay, good evening from Sydney, everyone, from Stone and Chalk, Sydney's largest technology startup and scale-up hub. For those who don't know me, my name is Peter Hendrickson. I am the Regional Trade and Investment Director for Invest Northern Ireland here in Sydney. We are usually based out of the British Consulate, but I've been delighted that during renovations at the Consulate, we've relocated here and have been here for the last 3 months and will be here for all of October as well. The webinar we have today is exploring Northern Ireland's fintech diversity. We have quite a lot. I've looked at the attendance list. We've got quite a strong attendance of startup and scale-up companies from across Australia and New Zealand. And we have a very strong set of panelists today as well. But first of all, I would like to introduce our moderator and our resident mentor here here at Stone and Chalk, David. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David, I've actually known for a while. Prior to working for Invest Northern Ireland, I used to work for the Danish Trade Commission, where Dave was very actively involved in the Danish Australian Chamber of Commerce. So, David, I'll hand over to you to introduce our great panelists.
Yes.
And I know we've got a great discussion, a panel discussion and fireside chat about Northern Ireland and Northern Ireland's strengths today.
Yep, thank you, Peter. I've actually been involved with tech startups for 35 years, scaling them up internationally. And I also do a bit of angel investing the last decade or so. So great to be placed here at Stone and Chalk because there's lots of startups and scale-ups here. So what I'll do now is I would like to introduce our panelists. And first of all, I'd like to introduce Andrew Jenkins. He is appointed to the UK government's FinTech envoy for Northern Ireland last year, just a year ago. And Andrew, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Thanks, David, Peter, and delighted to be here today. So thank you for the opportunity from what is a typical autumnal morning here in Belfast, Northern Ireland. The sun is just rising. So David, as you said, I was appointed as the UK FinTech envoy for Northern Ireland. Actually, just coming up to my 1-year anniversary. And how that role came around is the UK government has recognised that the UK as a whole is recognised as the lead global location for financial services. But it also recognised that while a lot of that work was happening within London and the southeast, there were fintech hubs, areas of expertise starting to build out around different locations outside of London and the southeast. So they appointed envoys to act as the advocate or the voice of fintech in those particular areas. So I was delighted to take up the role in October 2019, appointed by John Glenn, Economic Secretary to the Treasury. And I've learned a lot about the fintech sector in Northern Ireland over the last year. I've learned a lot about, what really that sector has to offer and what the future potential of the sector is. My day job, if you like, is I'm Director of Software Engineering for Arity, which is a company founded by the Allstate Corporation. Allstate is one of the largest property and casualty insurers in the United States. And at Arity, I lead a team of around 60 people, and we use big data around how people move to generate insights to make personal transportation safer, smarter, and more useful for everyone.
Excellent. Sounds like you've got these software skills in your team in Northern Ireland, my guess. Now I'd like to introduce the co-founder of Lightyear, which is Lightyear Cloud, which is Roger Gregg. So he and his brother have established a startup in the fintech space.
Was a startup that is now a scale up.
Yes, so let's hear about it, Roger.
Second time around as well. Thanks everyone. I'm sitting, despite the accent, I'm sitting in Bondi. So the sun is setting. It's the same sun, Andrew. Just ours is a little brighter and warmer. But anyway, yeah, we are a company that is actually based in Northern Ireland. We established the company a few years ago, but we have offices here in Sydney as well. Felt it really important to actually have offices in two very distinct time zones if we were going to go global. My own background, I actually went to Queen's Belfast a long time ago after I escaped the claws of Lurgan, which is my hometown, which just sounds like some sort of phlegm. Basically was back there, studied business and computers there, and then moved to Australia around about 14 years ago. My brother and I established a previous fintech startup in this space in 2011, and we sold that to Intuit, who are the makers of TurboTax and QuickBooks. We sold that in 2014, but felt as though we had unfinished business in the space. So we set it all up again in 2018 with the Invest NI friends. So that's what we are.
Roger, I think with some of the people, especially here at Stone and Chalk, who are watching live, they'll be very interested in the platform for Lightyear. Can you maybe give us a quick 30-second overview of what it does and how it works?
Yes, of course. So we are accounts payable automation. There's a number of facets to the program, but basically the supplier bills that businesses get in that update their stock systems, and you put into an approvals workflow through your organization in order to approve the bills for payment. That is what Lightyear automates. There were traditional incumbents in the space who focused on handling those paper bills better by developing good OCR and things like that. And we had a firm belief that if you start with paper, you end up with rubbish. So we set out and we created tech that basically breaks open system generated PDFs and reads the metadata before putting that data and those documents into an approvals workflow, which then gets shared with whatever systems you want, manufacturing systems, inventory systems, etc., and then drops that data into the accountancy software for your payments and things like that. So that's what we do. We're based on a microservices architecture, so lots of tiny little API calls firing off every couple of seconds or a couple of milliseconds.
Excellent. That's exciting stuff. We'll hear more about that.
And Roger owns a pub in Sydney and another one in Northern Ireland as well.
Yeah, well,
quick plug: the Carrington and Surrey Hills, and the Carden and the Nest in Lisburn, if you're ever thirsty.
There you go.
Thanks, Roger. And I think we'll go over to
Ravi.
Ravi.
Ravi, so tell us about, well, I believe you're from the UK, aren't you? But you're based here?
Originally, yes, that's correct. Yeah,
you've worked in Northern Ireland before or something?
That's right, that's right. So, yeah, so I've been fortunate to have worked, well, I began my career in London and then moved to Belfast in 2014 to help set up our office there for some of the reasons that I'll talk about today. And then it's very fortunate to be able to move to Sydney in 2017, enjoy the sunshine here. And my role now is to build out our presence across Asia and Australia and New Zealand. I manage a team across Sydney and Sydney and Melbourne. Yeah, I think given the coverage that we have as an organisation, I think we're uniquely placed to give some strong comparisons across the regions.
And you're a specialist recruiter in the IT space, in the technology.
That's correct. Yes. Sorry. So yeah. So I focus on all things IT. Our organisation as a whole is a global kind of IT and capital markets firm.
Yep, it's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you to Anson McCade. I should also add, are you in the office at the moment, Ravi?
No, I'm not. No.
Oh, I was going to say the officer Anson McCade just over the park here in Wynyard.
Just across the road.
Yeah.
Now, Peter, we've known each other for quite a while.
We have indeed.
Over a decade since you were at the Danish Trade Commission. So we've already heard while you're here at Stone and Chalk. I think I might have something to do with that. But anyway.
That's right. Yeah, we always come to the best.
But yeah.
A little bit about Invest NI.
Yeah.
Okay. I know many people here at Stone and Chalk I've already had one-on-one meetings with, but we've got startups and scale-ups from across Australia and New Zealand. Very quickly, Invest NI is the Northern Ireland's trade and investment agency, but it's more than that. It actually does development as well.